Good morning. Well, have you voted yet? We've been talking to the principal about this year's pay claim, and it's not just a pay claim, of course, but we need to know that the branch is behind us. Every time we go into meetings with the principal, he's asking us whether we as a branch agree to what he's saying, we have certainly sent out information, but we don't know. We don't know how much attention people are paying, and we don't know how much and how many people have actually voted. So we shall be sending out an email shortly, and we shall be asking you to report back to us whether or not you have voted in the current ballot. And it is vital that we actually do all take part in this. Some of you are asking questions about why we're voting. Why is UCU running a national campaign? So first of all, can we clarify what we mean by a national campaign? The campaign is national because it's a long-term campaign, because it's a campaign on behalf of all colleagues across England. We're trying to achieve national outcomes, and we're trying to achieve the best we possibly can for all FE college staff across, as I say, the whole of England. FE staff in Wales, FE staff in Scotland, and indeed FE staff in Northern Ireland have entirely different sets of agreements, and in many cases their conditions of service and their pay awards are better. And there is a very good reason for that. There are four aspects to the claim that we are engaged in at the moment. On staff pay, UCU is asking for 15.4%. That is not unrealistic. The gap between colleges and schools is enormous. I'll mention something about this a little bit later on. This is a realistic figure then, which will go to some extent towards redressing the balance of poor pay claims in the past. Colleges and branches where there has been no pay award in the past or an imposed pay award are all over the place. And certainly in the Southwest, we have branches where some colleges have been awarded 1% or indeed nothing in 2022-23. In previous years, there were periods in this college history, Bridgewater College and the erstwhile Somerset College, where no awards were made in consecutive years, many consecutive years, and colleagues will remember, some colleagues will certainly remember years when there was no award at all. Now we are fortunate in that we do have a principal who publicly declares to the staff, at any rate, of Bridgewater and Taunton College, that he has a commitment to improving considerably their pay award. Of course, then he says he doesn't have the money to do it. And this is where we have to start asking where people's priorities are. But at least he says he wants to improve things, in fairly sharp contrast to principals in the past at this and partner colleges where pretty much nothing was done for years. And that, of course, is why we actually have the current position. That's why we're so far behind the school sector, and indeed the higher education sector as well. You will have received an email from me a couple of weeks ago now, where I was suggesting that we should be giving a very warm welcome to our school teacher colleagues from Haygrove School, who are moving at least one year group to work on the Bridgewater campus at Bridgewater and Taunton College because of the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the scandal of buildings and the inaction and poor action from the Department for Education. But you will recognise the irony of welcoming those colleagues here when they have just received a pay award, not a good pay award, but a pay award, which agreed 6.5% for them. In the current climate, it's not good. It's still a cut. But nevertheless, that's what the NEU, the main teachers' union, has agreed. And the result of that, the net result of that, is that in their next pay packets, school teachers who are at the top of the main grade and I'm not talking here about people who have any supplements or promoted posts, top of the main grade, M6, they will be on £41,333 per annum. You compare that with the top of the lecturer scale at Bridgewater and Taunton College, where the top of the lecturer scale is just over 30,000 per annum. Of course, we have course leaders who are on an amount more than that, up to sort of 38 and more. But of course, they have much more than that in schools if they're on any sort of promoted post. And a course leader is a promoted post. So when we talk about the average gap between the teacher salaries and the further education lecturer salaries being £9,000, we can see that in this particular case, in Bridgewater and Taunton College, it's an even greater gap that we're talking about. So we're looking for an award this year which will go further, much further, in trying to address that huge imbalance, that huge disparity. 15.4% would still not do that. And we are in a cost of living crisis as well, still. Many of you will have heard me tell this old story. It isn't really a story, it's just a fact of life. I am probably getting to the end of my teaching career now. This is my 49th year of teaching, and I remember very clearly the first time I moved into further education from being a school teacher. I've sort of gone backwards and forwards a couple of times. And when I moved from being a school teacher in 1987 into further education, my money went up considerably, and I was on the lowest lecturer scale in those days. But unfortunately, those days have gone. And we need to remember that one of the reasons that further education pay is so low nowadays, so low, is because we do not any longer have a national pay scale. And because we have individual college principals working in completely separate ways and completely differently from their colleagues, perhaps just down the road. It's because of the lack of a national pay scale and the lack of a coordinated bargaining position that we can take with regard to our further education employers. And when people say to us, and our principal says this, but circumstances are different in every college, we need to recognise that it wasn't like that, but it is now. And that's a position which principals want to take. You will hear other people referring to college principals heading up their own personal fiefdoms. Well, I hope we're not going in that direction quite as much as another college not a million miles away from Bridgewater and Taunton, where we know that the principal, or the erstwhile principal, because I think he now wants to be called the president, is on a salary package of £350,000 a year, and probably more. And also, incidentally, wanting his staff to sing songs for him when he's leaving and paying for him to go on holiday. I've never heard anything like it. Nevertheless, we don't have that situation here, but we do have a situation where what happens in this college with this principal is very different from the next college down the road and the other college on the other side of the road. And my belief is that position will continue all the time while we fail to achieve binding national negotiation. We don't have a national pay scale. We don't have binding national negotiation or bargaining. And in the long term, if we want to improve salaries for further education staff, and I don't just mean lecturers, I mean staff in general, then we have to move towards a national bargaining position and indeed a national pay scale. We will not achieve all of that in 6 months or indeed in 1 year, but we must make a start on this. And that's why we must commit to binding national negotiations. And if our principal is not prepared to make a public commitment in that direction, then we need to make our own decisions about this and recognise why it is so much in his own interest and the interest of his senior management team not to take part in supporting binding national negotiations. That is to say, negotiations in one place for the whole of England, which all FE colleges will then agree with and implement. I could say much more about that, but I think every member of staff in this college is perfectly capable of drawing your own conclusions from the lack of such a bold and positive statement from our principal. I think you will see that you need to be voting in this election. I hope you have voted already. I shall be actually asking you to record very soon whether or not you have voted. And we look forward to a very good vote in that ballot, which will actually give us a great deal more strength when we actually move further into negotiations with the principal of this college. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.